Well, hello, my good friends. Welcome to Motion Sports, live from Florida. Having a great time. Been down here for just about a week, and we broadcasted from the Daytona International Speedway, which was absolutely spectacular. A lot of fun, and man, we got to just talk about some sports tonight, man. I want to get on here and kind of just recap and kind of talk about a lot of different sports action. Man, what a crazy weekend! I don't know what's going on. The year flipped, and we've all gone mad. Some of these things that's been going on, but I want to start with college football. Uh, the playoffs. We'll just go ahead and talk about the playoffs that occurred over the weekend. And I'm a big fan of college football, man. I'm a big fan of the New Year's Eve bowls and all this other stuff. And I think college is losing its tradition. It's making all the other bowls irrelevant. But I mean, everybody was looking at the last two playoff games, obviously the semifinals to go into the finals, which is coming up this weekend. But looking at these games and seeing what happened, and I was the first to say that SEC was weak. I was the first to say that the SEC was the weakest conference. One of the weakest conferences I've seen. It was top heavy. You have Alabama and Georgia, and I thought they were the cream of the crop, but everything else was kind of weak. And come to find out, in the bowls themselves, yeah, I mean it's true. The SEC did not show up. But again, the cream of the crop of the SEC showed up. Let's start with the Alabama game in Cincinnati. My question to you, go ahead and comment below. My question to you is, does these Group 5 teams, I mean, do they belong, like a Cincinnati, do they belong in the playoffs from here on out? If they're not part of the Super 4 or Super 6, whatever you want to be called, do the Cincinnatis of the world belong? An undefeated Cincinnati, should they have played this Alabama team? And I was talking to Jeremy Baker, throughout the game, and I said that Cincinnati will keep it close. The first half I thought was going to be within 7, actually wound up being within I think 10 or 14 points. Alabama did score that late touchdown in the first half, but I tell you, man, they were just outclassed. I mean, you could just tell. It reminded me a lot of the Notre Dame game a couple years ago when Notre Dame played Alabama in the first semifinal, and it's just the athletes. It's like literally an NFL team playing a college team, or a varsity team playing a JV team. Cincinnati just did not belong there. I mean, they just didn't. I don't want to hear anything about they had the right to have an opportunity to beat Alabama. If you look at that talent and you look at that game, once again, college football is actually, I think it's really hurting themselves. I do believe that, and hopefully, what we've seen with the likes of the Jackson State and this NIL. If there's anything good going to come out of the NIL, is the Alabamas and the Georgias and and the Clemsons of the world. They won't be as deep of a team. They're going to have these 5-star athletes start, but they won't be as deep. And Alabama, as you know, they just reload constantly, right? They don't rebuild. They just reload. And I think with this NIL is, if you get these top recruiters like Deion Sanders coming in and say, hey, look, why would you want to go to an Alabama when you're going to be, the first 2 years, you're going to sit there and be on the bench. You're a 5-star athlete, you're a top 10 athlete coming out of high school. Why would you go to Alabama and sit there and let the juniors and seniors play when you can become a star and make just as much money and do just as well somewhere else? And I think it's really going to hurt the top tier teams like in Alabama or Clemson or whatever, Michigan and Georgia, and they won't be as deep. And so I think you will start seeing these teams having to rebuild, and I think there's going to be a cyclical effect, especially now. You start seeing these athletes not play. I mean, Chris Olave from the Ohio State Buckeyes did not play this weekend. One of the best, we'll get to it, one of the best Rose Bowl games I think I've ever seen. But those athletes didn't, because they're trying to get ready for the combine. They're trying to get ready for the NFL, to the next stage of their life. And to be able to see, these athletes, take that step and say, look, we're just going to do what is best for us. I think with these NILs coming on, I think there's going to be a shift back. You're going to start seeing these games matter, right? You're going to start seeing these games matter to these athletes because as the playoffs expand to 8 teams, there's going to be more of an opportunity for these athletes to carry forth and be able to get more tape on the field to help their draft status. And I think with more bowl games comes more opportunities, and you won't see these one and dones of these Ohio State athletes. Let's say they're in a bowl, the Rose Bowl, which quite frankly didn't mean anything to anybody, honestly. It's just, I mean, it is a tradition. It's the great granddaddy of them all. But it didn't mean anything in terms of winning the championship, right? So there's a lot of athletes just kind of opting out and saying, look, I don't want to be part of this game. I've got bigger fish to fry in the NFL. My eyes are on that. But the Rose Bowl, the Fiesta Bowl, the Orange Bowl, the Sugar Bowl, with these 4 major bowls, a lot of the athletes come, next couple of years when the playoffs expand, I think are going to have more opportunity to showcase their skills and play for these teams throughout the bowls and throughout the playoff season, which would be, I think, fantastic for college football. Right now, the way it's set up, I think it hurts the product. I think it does. I think college football is in this weird twilight zone right now. They don't really know what to do. They did allow the NIL to take place. These athletes can now get paid for their likeness. But at the same time, they still have a problem. And the problem is this. They're still very top heavy. You still see Alabama dominate. You still see, the Clemsons dominate. It's just like cyclical between 1 or 2 teams. There's not a spread of talent amongst the United States. Back in the 80s and 90s, you saw a cyclical nature to these teams that were dominant, right? Remember back when Nebraska was dominant, then you had Texas, and then you had Oklahoma, and then you had Miami, and then you had Florida State, then you had Florida, and then you had Tennessee. I mean, all these schools rotated their dominance, right? And then you had obviously, the Ohio States and Miamis. Well, guys, in the last decade, it's been Alabama, and that's it. And, for Alabama fans, it's great. But for the rest of the people and the rest of the nation, to be honest with you, there is an Alabama fatigue. And even my good Alabama friends believe that there's an Alabama fatigue. And I'll be honest with you, I don't know. You can watch these ratings come up here for the college football. I don't know if these ratings between Alabama and Georgia are going to drive people to come watch that game. I'm going to do it because I like football. But I think for the mainstay, if you had Alabama, Michigan, I think it'd be much, much better, drive and nationwide. Because, I mean, obviously, I think the guys in the North are going to tune out. I really do. I think the people and the families in the North are going to tune out of this game. They don't want to see this SEC football. We already saw this game a couple weeks ago in the SEC championship. And, yeah, I mean, if Georgia beats Alabama, great. But, at the end of the day, it would have been better for ratings. It would have been better all the way around for college football if Michigan did beat Georgia, which brings me to that game. Michigan came out, I'll be honest with you. I was looking at the Demeter before the game, and they became, I think, very arrogant. I thought that these kids were going to come out. The offensive linemen were wearing run the damn ball t-shirts, and they're walking out in their pimped out suits and everything else, man. And I mean, Georgia just mopped the floor with Michigan. I mean, it wasn't even close. I mean, it was a joke. The Georgia that has been playing all year long showed up, and they showed the nation what they can do against a very good school. Michigan was on a very good streak of football, played their best football. They peaked at the right time, but they ran into a buzzsaw named Georgia. Now, what's going to happen next week? Is Georgia going to bring that momentum and carry it forth to Alabama, or is Alabama just going to say, you know what, hey, great game, but you know what, you are still redheaded stepchild of the SEC. We're a complete dominance here. I'm your daddy, and I'm going to spank you all over this field like they did last time. And I think that's what's going to happen. I think Alabama, look, I think the early line came out that Georgia was favored by 3. By 3 over Alabama. I think as it progresses, I mean, hammer that all day long. I mean, take Bama by 3 all day long. I think that line moves down before the game to even to pick them. I really do. When the sharp money comes in, I think you're going to start seeing. You never ever underestimate Nick Saban. You give him a little bit more tape on Georgia. I think these guys win the ball game. Now, is it going to be closer to the last game? I do believe so. Is it going to be scored as many points? I don't think so. I think Georgia's defense is going to tighten up, and I think it's going to be a grind. You're probably going to see maybe a 27-24 game, maybe, with this college playoff and college championship. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens, and it's going to be a lot of fun. But college football, great football. Did you guys see the Rose Bowl game? The Rose Bowl game was unbelievable. I mean, Utah, I'm going to have to give my hats off to Utah. I mean, they had a great season. They carried it forth into the Rose Bowl. They were leading Ohio State, I think it was by 20 points, in the Rose Bowl. And then Ohio State came back. And, man, I have to give my hats off to them. I mean, they just did not give up. And what a great game. The Rose Bowl was absolutely spectacular. It is the granddaddy of them all, and it really showcased itself. And kudos to Ohio State for winning that game. But my hat's off to Utah for putting it on and putting on a great show. And I know either one of them don't have a chance to win the national championship, but by far, I think that was the best bowl game so far this year in the bowls. And another great game I thought was excellent was Oklahoma State coming back by 30 against Notre Dame. Wow. I mean, that was unbelievable. Notre Dame, there's a lot of memes out there, basically these guys are, smiling and cutting up on the sidelines and basically counting their chickens before they hatched. And sure enough, it absolutely happened that way. Oklahoma State, Mike Gundy's team came back and just threw the ball all over Notre Dame, came back by 30 down, again, 30 points in a row to win that ball game. So hats off to them. Again, I think that was the second best ball game out there. And, congratulations to Oklahoma State for having actually a great year. I mean, they had a wonderful year. One of the sad things about the bowl games going on this year was the number of bowl cancellations. And, look, I've got two things to say about this. Number one is we got to get back to reality. We got to get back to normalcy somehow, some way. And sports tends to lead us in and out of things, which is great. Sports is used to take us out of the realism of the real world and gets us into a place to where we can take kind of a little break, a breather, and be able to showcase and see art, theatrics, sport, man versus man on the field. But in all reality, it is part of this real world that we live in. But sports can lead us in and out of things and show us things that can help us in real life. I think back to 9/11. 9/11, when George Bush was on the mound and at Yankee Stadium, everybody had their eyes on what was going on. Sports led us to healing and led us back together as a country. And I think it was a vital part of this country getting back on its feet and defeating terrorism. I think sports can do the same thing with this virus. If sports can take the lead and showcase and say, look, we've had enough of this scare of the virus. These college athletes are super healthy. They can play. Being infected with asymptomatic symptoms, they can play. And I think if somebody takes the lead from the sports aspect, I think society follows. And it's about time that this happens. Stop canceling these games. I mean, it's enough. If they're asymptomatic, let them play. And I understand that they're afraid of lawsuits and everything else. Make them sign waivers. Okay? Make them sign waivers if they want to do that. If they don't want to play, then put it in their scholarship that, that if they don't play these games, even with a COVID test, then they don't get a part of their scholarship. Whatever it is, man. I mean, we've got to get back to normalcy. We cannot run from this virus. You need to tackle it head on. No pun intended. But it's time to get back to reality. And we got to stop being afraid. We got to stop being afraid. And it's time. It's time. And I think college football or in the NCAA can help lead that if they really wanted to. You're starting to see professional sports. Even LeBron James is sick and tired of this, COVID cold thing, and he's taking a lot of heat now because the woke crowd is out there trying to basically call him a hypocrite and everything else. But we won't get into all that. But it is what it is. But the NBA, I think, is starting to wake up because it's really starting to affect their product, as well as the NFL. And the NFL, I'll be honest with you, I've been tuning out of the NFL the last couple of weeks. It has been horrible. The product, just put the replacement players in. It has been awful, to see these guys being put on the shelf for 10 days, missing 2 games, and, some of your stars. Fantasy football during the championships have been ruined because of all these starters being out because of COVID. I'll be honest with you, I'm not going to play fantasy football anymore until this COVID crap is over. My team was decimated by injuries and by COVID. And quite frankly, I don't have the time nor the energy to go in there and start changing my lineups up and down based on COVID. Okay. I just can't keep up with all that. So I'm out. Fantasy football, I'm out until all that is taken care of. I want to get into this NFL. So with the NFL, man, I tell you, I'm disappointed what I saw with Antonio Brown. A lot of people joking about it, but man, I tell you, this guy needs some help. And does the NFL have an obligation to help these players? Don't tell me that the NFL did not recognize what this is. See, here's the deal. The NFL is a punisher, not a problem solver. They think the punishment automatically solves the problem. They have an obligation, I believe, to not only punish when players do something bad, but also to rehabilitate. And you've got the likenesses of Antonio Brown, and you've got Gordon, the wide receiver who had multiple violations of drug abuse. Ray Rice, right? And all these different people. What they do is they kick him out and they kick him out to the curb, and they don't rehabilitate. The NFL has known about Antonio Brown for years. And again, they continue to allow this clown show go on and really look, man. The NFL has to be embarrassed what happened. That is an awful situation. What happened with him taking his shirt off, prancing around the football field in New York, the hub of media central, and right in the home of the NFL, and have this guy, affect everything's been going on. That headline was the most watched, heard, talked about headline other than the football games. And I'm sure the NFL does not want that. But you know what? The NFL should have done something about this a long time ago. Now, what can they do? What is the NFL's obligation to the player to do? Well, was it a good idea to allow him to go back down to Tampa and let him play? There's other programs that he should have been passed, from a mental standpoint, or stability standpoint, to let this guy go out there and perform. The problem is talent supersedes all the other issues. Talent supersedes the here and now rather than what's going to happen in the future with these guys. And the NFL needs to worry about the product and protect, quote unquote, the shield, and protect themselves from these yahoos like this. Now, I don't want to. Look, Antonio Brown's got a serious problem. Mentally, he's got a serious problem, and with this meme generation and the social media generation, everything else, they just want to kind of sweep this under the rug and just laugh about it and move on. And I'm guilty because I posted some things about Antonio Brown too, man. The guy's he's just loco. But those who are around him and those who really care about him, there's multiple issues that continue to go on with this guy. And, before something seriously happens to him, somebody needs to step in, his friends, family, his former teammates or his current teammates or, whatever it was, and really try to help this guy. And I know Tom Brady tried to, and there's only so much you could do. But man, what has he gone through medically to allow him to be able to perform as an athlete for the NFL? And, as we get into this science about mental health and, the seriousness about this mental health and how you have people literally quitting um, their positions in sports, talk about they need to focus on their mental health. Well, what's going on? I mean, what are we doing to help these guys? What are we doing to facilitate the help? A lot of times they're just left by themselves to try to figure things out themselves. I think it's dangerous. But regardless, there had to be a game to play, and Tampa did come back and beat the New York Jets, 24-20 in that game. And I'll have to give kudos with all the distractions going on. I have to give kudos to Tom Brady and Bruce Arians for actually, sticking to the grindstone and winning that game. And, I mean, honestly, I thought, oh, my God, I cannot believe the Jets are going to be sitting here and beat Tampa Bay. But it almost did happen. Just go to a couple of scores here, guys. Scores that matter. Chicago doesn't matter. They're going to fire Matt Nagy come next week. There's already been reports out. His last coaching day in the NFL for the Chicago Bears is done next week. They're already kind of putting together some things behind the scenes. I think Jim Harbaugh is going to become the Chicago Bears head coach. That's just been my opinion. It's been my opinion for weeks. Jim Harbaugh, I think, will become the Chicago Bears' next head coach. New England, Mac Jones, man, puts a whooping on Jacksonville. I mean, Jacksonville should be stripped of their franchise, for goodness sakes. They're not even competitive. It's 50-10. I mean, give me a break. They're a joke. But New England looks fantastic. We have a game tonight. That's Cleveland and Pittsburgh. That starts at 8:15 right about now as I'm recording this. I honestly don't even know. I have a prediction on this. This is Big Ben's last game in Pittsburgh, so I think there's going to be a lot of motion with it. T.J. Watt is trying to go for the sack lead, which Robert Quinn took over from the Chicago Bears. Robert Quinn actually broke the Chicago Bears team record, over 18 sacks. Congratulations to him in one season. Beat Richard Dent's record. So T.J. Watt has, I think it's about a half sack or 1 sack behind Robert Quinn, so he's going to try to go after that and take that title as well. Buffalo does beat Atlanta. Big game. The Bengals at home take care of business, and they beat Kansas City. Kansas City came out strong. Joe Burrow, leads his team with the last touchdown to Jamar Chase. 34-31. They beat them, and wow, what a game. And Cincinnati, y'all, look out, man. That momentum's coming in. They win the AFC North, and that momentum is going to carry them into the playoffs. I wouldn't want to face that team in the playoffs. No way, no how. A shocker. Las Vegas Raiders. The Raiders go into the Indianapolis Colts and beat them at home. So that's very interesting how that's going to transpire. Carson Wentz, man, I'm on the fence with this guy. I just don't know about him, but you can't be losing momentum going into the playoffs like the Colts are. And I don't know. It's kind of a crapshoot. We talked about Tampa Bay. 28-24 was the win. They did win 28-24. Tennessee just crushes Miami 34-3. Again, that's another team I would not want to face come in playoff time. Again, if they get Derrick Henry back, which all signs point that he might be back for the playoffs, look out for Tennessee. Philadelphia clinches. Now, y'all laughed at me. I posted that Philly is a team to be reckoned with. They're playing really good ball. Everybody laughed at me. They clinched. They're in the playoffs. Now, are they going to do in the playoffs? I don't know, but they did make the playoffs. They win 20-16. The Rams beat the Ravens 20-19. The Ravens, I think, are out of the playoffs. They're going to be done. But the Rams beat them in Baltimore 20-19. The Chargers beat Denver 34-13. San Francisco 49ers beats Houston 23-7. The Cardinals go into Dallas in an impressive win without DeAndre Hopkins. They win 25-22. The Saints beat Carolina 18-10. And Russell Wilson's potentially last home game in Seattle just put on a show, beat the Detroit Lions 51-29. And the game last night was Green Bay. Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers clinch the NFC North. They are number 1 seed. All teams have to go through Green Bay. Good luck. And they win again against the Vikings 37-10. So, but it's going to be very interesting to see how that all transpires. It's going to be a lot of fun. Being a Chicago Bear fan, having Green Bay clinch throughout the playoffs hurts my feelings. Aaron Rodgers continues just to decimate the NFC North as well as the NFC in itself. Aaron Rodgers, I believe, is still, again, the MVP. And, a lot of people are trying to, throwing other names out, but Aaron Rodgers is, again, back-to-back MVP. It's just no questions asked. Shut the door. I don't think they'll give it to him because of this, unvaccinated, vaccinated thing that he had gone through. I think that would be bogus. But Aaron Rodgers, by far on the field, is the MVP. I just think it's hands down. So, well, guys, that's it tonight for Motion Sports. Hope you enjoyed it. Tune in next time. Like, subscribe, follow us, man. We'd love to have you. Y'all enjoy the games tonight. We will see you later. Take care. Bye.